Today's chapter is all about power, gold, and betrayal. This is how the Asante Kingdom, a powerful West African state, was systematically dismantled by the British. And at the center of it all was one man, Asante Agyeman Prempeh. And to understand how the British brought him down, we have to go back. So by the late 19th century, the mighty Asante Kingdom was in trouble. Decades of war had left it weakened, and the authority of Kumasi, its capital, was crumbling. And thousands of Asantes were living as refugees in British-controlled territory. Meanwhile, the British had gone from trade partners to colonizers, slowly tightening their grip on the region. At first, the British saw Asante to be a serious power, but as the kingdom continued to weaken, their attitude changed. They no longer saw Asante to be a force to respect, but rather a problem to solve. In the 1890s, the British made an offer to the Asante Kingdom. Let us place Asante under the British protection. Your kingdom is falling apart. We will help you. But Agyeman Prempeh, he wasn't buying it. Here is what he wrote. I am happy to say we have arrived at this conclusion. My kingdom of Asante will never commit itself to any such policy. Asante must remain independent as of old. Translation: we don't need your help. We got this. I don't know, sounded like that. So he came up with a plan. His advisors, two Western educated Asantes, John and Albert Owusu-Ansah, suggested something bold. So the advisors told Nana Agyeman Prempeh, send an Asante delegation directly to London. What was the goal? The goal was to bypass colonial officials in Gold Coast and negotiate with investors in London to develop Asante on its own terms. It was very risky, but it could work. After months of delays, of course, the Gold Coast colonial officials tried to block them, but the Asante delegation finally arrived in London in April 1895. But the British government, they refused to meet the Asante delegation. Instead, they handed down an ultimatum: accept a British governor in Kumasi, pay your war indemnities, or else. So here's the twist. While the Asante delegation was in London, they made a secret deal with a wealthy businessman named George Reckless. So he agreed to raise a private investment capital to develop Asante, completely independent of the British control. This terrified the British colonial officials. Why? Because they had been hoping to profit off Asante themselves. So they made their next move. In November 1895, the British colonial secretary, Joseph Chamberlain, had had enough, so he drafted a plan to overthrow Agyeman Prempeh. Doesn't make sense. Joseph Chamberlain's plan was break up Asante and replace the Asante Hene with a puppet ruler. And who could be the puppet ruler? Yao Trineboa, the penniless refugee who fled Kumasi. If you don't know who he is, I made a video about him some weeks ago. I'll link it up here or somewhere up here. Okay, let's just go on. When Agyeman Prempeh heard about this, he said something that gave me chills. So he said, since the time of my accession to the stool of my ancestors, it has been my chief aim to gather together all my people who had been scattered abroad through civil wars. As hard as I have tried, they have refused to bring about a peaceful settlement. I am entirely prepared to sacrifice myself to save the lives of my people and to avert the destruction of my country rather than by allowing them to fight. And that's exactly what happened next. So on January 20th, 1896, the British governor arrived in Kumasi with an army behind him. He made a demand. He said, hand over a 50,000 ounce of gold. After this stunning announcement, he drew from his pocket a document of list of names. He read these out, declaring that anyone mentioned was under arrest and would be immediately deported from Asante to the Gold Coast. The list was headed by Agyeman Prempeh and his mom Yechan. It went on to name Agyeman Prempeh's father, Kwesi Bibi, his younger brother, Agyeman Bedu, 5 senior Kumasi office holders, and 3 Amaihene. Shock and horror greeted this announcement, but as the Asante had ordered, there was no resistance because Nana Agyeman Prempeh had ordered his people not to fight. Agyeman Prempeh will go on to spend decades in exile, but Asante never forgot. Years later, the British were forced to let him return. And today, Asante Kingdom still exists as one of the most powerful traditional institutions in Ghana. The British never wanted Asante to thrive. This wasn't about helping. They wanted to take control over trade, over people, and most of all, over power. And this is how the British took down the Asante Kingdom. This story is very wild. It's all about colonialism, resistance, and how an African kingdom tried to outmaneuver the British but got crushed in the process. But it raises a very big question. I mean, what if the Asante delegation succeeded? I mean, what if an African country was able to develop on its own terms without a colonial interference? What if? I mean, let me know in the comment section. Let's talk about this in the comment section.